That's right, we're making a lamb madras tonight, a beautiful tasty lamb madras with no base gravy. Now, I can hear some of you already saying, heresy I hear, no base gravy, that won't be a restaurant or takeaway style curry. Well, just wait and see. Try this recipe out. I think you'll be surprised. So here are the ingredients that we're going to be using in our lamb madras with no base gravy. Take a look. Here we've got some pre-cooked lamb. Now, we didn't cook this lamb in the method that I mentioned in my last video because that included base gravy, and we're absolutely going zero base gravy. This lamb was cooked according to my first recipe for pre-cooking lamb, and I'll post a link for that for you to check out underneath this video. So we've got about 300 grams of pre-cooked lamb, and as you can see, some of the liquid here, and that is going to add some real flavor to our lamb madras. We're going to add some of that liquid in. We've got a medium onion, very finely chopped, and the secret here is that this onion really does need to be very finely chopped for this recipe to work. So oftentimes people don't chop their onions fine enough when you're looking to try and get body and gravy in your dish. And remember, we're not using base gravy, so we're using this onion to create our gravy and our sauce, but you must chop it really fine. What we've got here are some of our whole spices that we're going to use to lift this curry and get more of that authentic thing going on in our madras. We've got 3 green cardamom, we've got just a pinch of fennel seeds, half a teaspoonful of brown cumin seeds, and just 2 cloves. Then here we've got our ginger. There's just a 1-inch piece of fresh root ginger, finely diced. We've got 4 cloves of garlic here that have been finely chopped. We need quite a bit of garlic in this dish to create the flavor we're looking for. And then we've got here 1 teaspoon, there might be just a bit more in this, but we're going to use about a teaspoon amount of very good quality tomato puree. This is not mixed with anything, it's not watered down, it's just tomato puree as is. More about that in a minute. And then we've got 2 green chilies, finely chopped. We've got some water, which is hot, we're going to use to create our sauce. And then we've got some fresh lemon, which we're going to just add in to garnish. And also we're going to use some of the juice for flavor. When it comes to cooking, the devil is often in the detail, as they say. In other words, small details, small changes can make a big difference, and that certainly applies here when it comes to this lamb madras recipe with no base gravy. So what I want to talk about and show you here is our tomato puree. This is really important. Just take note of this. Can you see this tomato puree here? We're going to use just about a teaspoon amount in our curry, and it's going to add a real flavor and body to our madras, that tanginess that we're looking for. But not all tomato puree is created equal. What you need to do is choose a really good quality tomato puree. The brand that I recommend and use, if you can get hold of it, if you're in the UK you should get hold of it, is this Sirio. Now I learned about this brand of tomato puree from Billy at the Choma Grill, and it's superb. There is a massive difference between this and just other commercial bought tomato puree that you might find. For example, I'm just going to show you, I don't know if you can see the difference here. This is the tomato puree that we're going to use, which is Sirio. You can see the body in that. You can almost see the tomatoes broken down because Sirio is 100% tomato. And here we have a commercial, typical supermarket tomato puree, which is much more processed and fine. And if you look on the ingredients, you'll often see that it's not just tomatoes. There's acidity regulator, there's citric acid in there, there's preservatives, there's sometimes salt and spices, and it doesn't taste right. Your curry will not taste right with this. It's too acidic, it's too tart, and it could ruin the flavor of your curry. So I would recommend try the Sirio brand. If you can't get that, just make sure whatever tomato puree you're using is 100% tomatoes and nothing else, as is this brand. So as usual, we always want to be starting with a nice hot pan. So we've got our pan on a medium heat there. The pan is getting nice and hot, and we're going to add our oil. Now we're just going with rapeseed oil. Again, we want to keep the oil neutral in this dish. We're going to get our flavours from the whole spices. So we're just going to use one 30-gram chef spoon of rapeseed oil in our pan. First thing we're going to do is add our whole spices. That's our cumin seeds, fennel seeds, our cardamom, green cardamom, and our cloves. And we just want to just break open, as you can see, those green cardamom so that the seeds are exposed and we get the flavours of those seeds in the oils. It's been about 30-40 seconds just to get those flavours into the oil, and we're going to add in our onion. What we're aiming to do with the onion is get that quite brown. Not really dark brown in this dish, but we do want it going brown. So that's going to take a couple of minutes. We'll come back to that once those onions have softened and gone nice and brown. So it's been about 2-3 minutes and our onions are just starting to look nice and brown. So you can see them there, not too brown. And now we're going to add in our garlic and our ginger. I'm just wanting to fry off the rawness from the garlic and the ginger. Once we've done that, we'll add in the tomato puree and then we'll add in our powdered spices. With the tomato puree, as I said, we're going to just use just about a teaspoon amount, maybe a nice good teaspoon, into our pan. And just with the back of your spoon, just mix that with the onions, the oil and the garlic and your whole spices. Now this is really important, you must cook out the tomato puree. If you add other ingredients, particularly liquid, in at this stage, your curry will be too tart, it'll be too citric, and you don't want that. We want to cook out the acid in the tomatoes, so just bear with it. You'll notice the colour will change a little bit. It'll go from like a bright red to a darker red once we've cooked out the acidity in the tomatoes. So now we've got our tomato puree cooked. You can smell it as well, it smells different. So now we're going to go in with our powdered spices. So we're going to put in just a touch, maybe a third of a teaspoon of turmeric. We're going to put in half a teaspoon of coriander powder. That's our freshly ground coriander. We're going to put half a teaspoon of freshly ground cumin powder. And we're going to put in a good teaspoon of red Kashmiri chili powder, because it is a Madras, so we do want it hot after all. Now what you'll notice is the mixture in your pan is quite dry, and you might be thinking, oh quick, I need to add some liquid in there. Don't worry about it just yet, just allow those spices to cook in the dry mixture, and you'll smell them. You'll smell those spices, and then just add in a little bit of water, just a little bit. Maybe a tablespoon and a half of water. And then we've got a really nice paste. Now at this stage we want to add in our salt. This will help again breaking down the onions. So we're just going to put half a teaspoon of salt in. Now we're going to put our lamb in with the lamb stock. Now that's already looking really, really gorgeous. We're going to add in our fresh green chilies at this stage. And the reason we don't add them in at the beginning with the onions is because we want some of that freshness of the green chili in this dish. So in with the green chilies. So what we want to do now is we want to turn up the heat. We want to cook this together now. So we're going to cook this for 3 or 4 minutes, bring it all together, and we're just going to, as that thickens and gets a bit tighter, we're going to add some water to that to get the desired consistency we're looking for. So it's about 3 minutes later. We've now got a much tighter mixture in the pan, and this is where we're going to just now get the desired consistency we're looking for by adding water. Just take a look in the pan. So now we're going to add in our hot water. Make sure it is hot. If you put cold water in, you'll slow down the cooking process. So some hot water into our pan. We're just going to probably add about 1/3 of a cup. So this part of the recipe is really entirely up to you. How do you like your lamb madras? Do you like a nice sauce? Do you like plenty of sauce to dip your naan bread or your chapati in, or soak up those juices in the rice? Or do you prefer something a little bit thicker? So really, that's what you'll have to decide as to how you want this sauce, but you can just reduce it. So if you add too much water in, just reduce it and get it to the desired consistency. Better to start with a little bit too much water and reduce it than not enough, and then overcook it or burn the spices or something like that. It's looking really, really good. Just take a look at this. Now the final step is your lemon. You want some nice, fresh lemon. Make sure you got rid of all the pips. You don't want no pips. You don't want to crunch down on one of them. So get a nice piece of lemon like that and just squeeze the liquid into the pan like that. Don't overdo the lemon. Sometimes we can put too much lemon in and it's just too citric. We just want a little bit just to add that slight tartness that we're looking for. Then we're just going to take a good pinch of methi leaves and we're just going to scrunch them in to the madras like that. And then we'll just cook that for about another minute or 2 until the oil starts to float on the top, and then our madras will be done, and we'll do the taste test. And then we just want to add in some fresh coriander. Take a look at that. This recipe was inspired by the Punjab Tandoori on Winslow Road in Manchester, a Sikh-run restaurant that sadly is no longer there. They've actually closed, I think it was about 2 years ago, but when I used to go to watch Manchester City play, I'm a Manchester City fan by the way, I used to go there with my son and we used to order a madras, and the chef there told me that he did not use base gravy in the madras. It was just simply the stock from the lamb, onions, garlic, ginger, and some good quality tomato puree. So it's not his exact recipe, but it inspired this dish. And let's just taste it and do the taste test, and I'll tell you what it's like. Wow. Wow. Wow, that is such a rich flavour. And because we've cooked the tomatoes, the tomato puree that is, well in the pan there, we haven't got that acidity, that sharpness you can sometimes get from tomato-based dishes. What you've got is a rich gravy, an unctuous, delicious madras, spicy, but not overpoweringly spicy. And then you've just got that hint of lemon, just that hint of lemon, which just gives it that typical characteristic of a madras, a restaurant madras. Try this. You'll be really, really pleasantly surprised by how good it comes out with no base gravy. And hey, how much easier is it to be able to make a lamb madras without base gravy? Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Go and try this recipe. It is amazing. You'll be surprised how good this madras is with no base gravy. I look forward to hearing your comments once you've tried it, and tell me what you think about it, and we'll have a little bit of a chat going on in the comments there. So thanks for watching. Tune in next Friday for another great tasty recipe.